Okay, grade 12, what I want to do is I want to look at arrangements of objects in a row. And what we're going to do is we're going to consider an example where 3 men and 2 women are to be seated in a row. And in how many ways can they be seated if the men and women can sit in any seat? Okay, now let's have a look at that. So if we take this, we've got, let's have a look. We're gonna create these 3 men. Okay, so we could have James. Okay, let's call this guy James. We've got Peter and Michael. Let's call him Mike. Okay, so there's 3 men. And there's women. The one is Sarah. Let's call her S. And Dimple. Let's call the other girl Dimple. So we've got 3 men and 2 women. And these people have, these 3 men and these 4 women have got to be seated in a row. Okay, now have a look at this here. We've got James, Peter, Mike, Sarah, and Dimple. And they've got to be seated in a row. And really, if you think about it, there's 5 possible seats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So in how many ways can we seat these people? In how many ways can we seat them if anybody can sit in any seat? So let's see. Well, if you look at the first seat, how many choices are there? How many people are there? There's 5. So any of the 5 could have sat in the first seat. So let's say we're going to put Peter there. Okay, so Peter pops into the first seat. He sits there. Now he's seated. So for the next seat, we only have 4 choices. We've got James, Mike, Sarah, and Dimple. Only 4 people could now be eligible for that seat there, that second seat. So let's decide, well, maybe Sarah is going to go and sit there next to Peter there. Okay, now have a look at that. We now have for the next seat here, next to these 2, there's only 3 people that we can choose from. James, Mike, or Dimple. So let's suppose we choose Dimple. She goes there, and we'll put Dimple into the seat there in the 3rd position. Okay, now if you think about it, we only have 2 people that could occupy the seat, 2 possible people, either or. We got James or Mike. Let's say Mike decides he wants to sit there. Okay, so let's put him in, and Mike pops and sits there. Okay, now if you think about it, how many people could occupy that position? Only 1, and that person is James. So James goes into the last position there. That's one possible arrangement. You could have arranged them very differently. You could have said, okay, instead of that arrangement, let's maybe do another or slightly different arrangement. So let's move them up like that, and we could have said, okay, fine. We could have put Sarah into the first position. We could have put Dimple into the second position. There's many different ways that we could do this. We could, if you like, put James into the 3rd position there. Okay, then we could put Mike into the 2nd position, or not the 2nd, the 4th position there, to that position there, and Peter could have occupied then the last position. So that's another possible arrangement. So in how many ways could we do that? Well, from the counting principle, for the first position, there are 5 possible choices. For the second position, where Dimple is, there are 4 people you could have chosen, you could have selected from. Then we've got 3, 2, and 1, which of course from the counting principle is 5 factorial. So there are 5 factorial ways, which is 120 ways or arrangements of these 5 people in any order. 3 men, 2 women can sit anywhere they like, and we have 120 arrangements, seating arrangements of those people. Not only SDJMP, we could have DJSPM. It doesn't really matter, but they can be arranged in 5 factorial ways from the counting principle. Okay, now let's look at the B part of the question. The 3 men and 2 women are to be seated in a row. In how many ways can they sit if a man and his wife must sit together? So what we're going to do is I want you to watch this very carefully. I'm going to let's marry 2 people. Let's take James, and he marries Sarah. Okay, so in other words, we've got a couple here. So if you look at B here, we've got James and Sarah now form a couple. Okay, they form a couple. They're married, and they've got to sit together. James is not going to want his wife to sit anywhere else. So if they're in a movie or wherever they are, they need to sit together. But the other people, you've got Dimple, you've got Mike, and you've got Peter. They can sit in anywhere they like. So remember, James and Sarah will occupy 2 seats. Dimple, Mike, and Peter would occupy the other seats. There's still 5 seats. But now, in how many ways can we arrange this, that they sit together? Well, what we could do is we could have, for example, James, Sarah, Dimple, Mike, Peter. So notice that we've got that there. Okay. Or we could put Dimple first, and then we have James and Sarah, the couple, there with Mike and Peter. Or we could put here Dimple. We could swap Mike and James and Sarah around there and put Peter there. And then, of course, we could have Dimple, Mike, Peter, and the couple there. Okay. Now look at that. There's 4 possible arrangements there. Okay. Of James and his wife, James and Sarah, relative to the other 3 people. Okay. Now what I want you to visualize, I want you to think of the couple as an entity. Okay, as an entity. So we've got this couple as an entity. Alright, and then we could have Dimple as an entity, Mike as an entity, and Peter as an entity there. So there's actually 4 entities, okay, that need to be worked together. So if you look at the 4 positions, what could we have done? Okay, if you look at this, we've got 4 positions there. Look at this, we've got the couple, Dimple, Mike, and Peter. So there's actually 4 entities. Now, in how many, if you take those 4 entities, which of those 4 entities, if you treat them as, if you take James and Sarah, it says, the Bible says, when they get married, they become one. So now what we're doing is we're treating them as a one couple, but Dimple is one entity, Mike is one entity, Peter's one entity. Now, in how many ways could these 4 entities be placed in the first space here? Well, there's 4 possibilities. Okay, and then of course, let's suppose that we've used Dimple, so we put Dimple there. Okay, now we come here, now we've used Dimple, so there's 3 other entities available, so we could put Mike there. Okay, then we've used Mike, now we come along to, here we've got the couple or Peter, so there's 2 of them, let's put 2 possibilities, let's put the couple there. And then obviously Peter will fit into there, and that's only 1 possibility. Now remember, that's 1 seat, 2 seats, that's a 3rd seat there. But this, the couple occupy 2 seats, so there's still 5 seats, but they're 4 entities. And the way that we can arrange the entities together, in other words, the couple, Mike, Dimple, and Peter would be 4 times 3 times 2 times 1, which is 4 factorial ways. So that has got to do with the 4 entities that I spoke about. The entities being the couple, James and Sarah, Dimple, Mike, and Peter, and they can be arranged in 4 factorial ways relative to each other, as I showed you. Relative to each other would be either one of these 4 positions here. Okay, but you can see that there it is. Okay, so that, but now hang on. If you take the couple, James and Sarah, if you think about it, they could be seated relative to each other. So you could have James first, then Sarah, or Sarah and James. James could be to the left of Sarah, or Sarah to the left of James. So in fact, if you just take the couples arrangement, how you've got James and Sarah. So which of those 2 could sit in the first position? Any of the 2, James or Sarah. But if James sits there, then there's 1 person that will sit there, is Sarah. And likewise, if Sarah sat there, then James would sit there. But there's 2 people that could sit in, if you take James and Sarah, of those 2 in the couple, 2 of them could have sat, one of them could have sat there. So there's 2 people that could have sat there, James or Sarah, and then once one of them sat down like James did, then Sarah would be forced to sit next to James there. So there's actually 2 factorial ways, if you look at the way that the couple are organized, are sort of arranged. Okay, so in total, how many possible ways would there be? In total would be the ways that the couple sit together, the way that the couple sit together, multiplied by the ways that the ways that the couple sits with the others. Okay, in other words, those are the four entities. You see that there. The way that the couple sit, there's really just two people there. Couple there. So you would say, okay, well, if the way that if you take the couple sits relative to each other is 2 factorial, that would be James, Sarah, Sarah, James. So if you have two positions, who could go in here? James or Sarah. So that's two people could one of the two. Then once one of them sits would be 1. So it's 2 factorial when you multiply. And then we've got the way that the entities can be arranged. So you could have, if you look here, you could have in the 4 spaces, you could have Dimple, Mike, the couple, or Peter. 4 of them could go into those 4 spaces. So there's 4 options for the first space. The second space would be down to 3, then 2, and then 1. 4 factorial for the way in which the couple sits relative to the other guys, okay, which would be 4 factorial there. Now you can use the factorial button on the calculator and work out 2 factorial times 4 factorial, and you'll get 48 ways. Okay.